El futuro tiene nada más que la confrontación.
Hey, welcome to You Don't Even Like This Show. I'm your host, Adam Todd Brown. I used to host a podcast called Unpopular Opinion, and that podcast was this podcast. But then everyone else in the world decided they liked the name Unpopular Opinion a lot too, so we changed the name to You Don't Even Like This Show. Each week, me and a couple of guests selected from a pool of the absolute sharpest minds the LA entertainment scene has to offer use this here space to talk about whatever the hell we want. News, pop culture, politics, information, you name it, we talk about it. And sometimes my co-host Jeff May is here too. It's a blast. You're gonna love it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Don't Even Like This Show, a very special My City is on Fire edition. Part 2, actually, because last week's episode was just about how the city is on fire, and I was only able to record that because Jeff has not had to flee the fires, unlike most of the rest of LA has. So this week's roundup of guests, they are all far, far, far from the flames. Case in point, Andy Sell coming to you from the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah. Gosh, I wish I could give y'all my lakes.
We could use them.
You could definitely use them.
Use them.
Or just get rid of that like couple that owns 90% of the water in the state or whatever, you know. That would be a good thing to do.
That would help too. Also joining us from the great state of Texas, so he has no familiarity with natural disasters at all. Logan Trent is here.
Great was in scare quotes. You couldn't see. So, yeah.
Great as in size, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty big. The big state of Texas.
Pretty big. If you listen to this network at all, you already know Andy, one of my co-hosts on You Don't Even Like This Band. Logan, my co-host on WNB, yay, which will be back soon in the new year. Probably around the time March Madness, but probably before then too. Who knows? Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Ooh.
In the meantime, yeah, the city is on fire right now. So this seems like a good time to do a local news roundup episode so I can see what's going on in other parts of the country that aren't burning to the ground right now.
Doing just fine. End of episode.
Yeah, everything's great. Everything's great everywhere. No updates.
Every other state's just clinking little champagne glasses and taking a sip.
Yeah. Toasting to the new year, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized we're like 10 days away from the inauguration. It will have passed by the time this comes out, if this comes out after the inauguration. Who knows?
Oh, man. God damn it.
This network will even still be allowed on the American airwaves after January 20th.
This is the last episode.
Yeah. The last episode that never comes out. It's just a myth forever.
We might be in prison.
Yeah, it would suck if this is like a really bad episode and it becomes this cult thing that like never comes out.
Oh gosh.
The only podcasts allowed will be Joe Rogan. And for some reason, the one with like white wine and crime, like Trump just really likes that one. Like just,
you got to keep the trad wives happy if you're going to forward the fascist agenda.
I mean, I don't want to shit on white wine true crime. They were my co-hosts on the Pretty Scary podcast.
No, not that one. Dang, I was thinking of the other one. Sorry. No.
I don't know. My Favorite Murder.
That was the one I was thinking of. No, white wine true crime is okay-ish. The other one was the one I was complaining about. Yeah. Not the one with Caitlin Cutt. I like that one.
Yeah. The two hosts of My Favorite Murder are kind of fuck faces.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. I was just
they sure are.
They
Sorry.
are pretty shitty. So you all know how these local news roundup episodes work. I just scour headlines from local news sources around the country and, you know, just look for stories that aren't getting that much national attention. Sometimes just because the media is dropping the ball. Sometimes because, hey, they don't deserve that much national attention. But we talk about them anyway. Like this one, I guess this counts as good news to start, I suppose. That's cool. An anonymous donor has been dropping a rare South African Krugerrand gold coin into a Salvation Army red kettle every Christmas for at least the past 26 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, don't give to the Salvation Army, folks.
Yeah.
They're a fucking terrible organization.
And you could at least split this shit up a little bit.
Yeah, right? Cut the coin in half.
I like how as soon as you see rare South African coin, you're just immediately eyebrow arching. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if you hear like, oh, there's a nice gold coin that finds its way into Argentinian collection pots. Where'd that coin come from?
Oh, I guess I didn't even mention this is happening in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Oh, hey. I was just there recently.
I don't know why I didn't put that part in the notes.
UNC Jazz Fest.
Oh, sure.
Wait, is that in Fort Collins or is that in Greeley? I think it's Fort Collins. Okay.
Listen, I apologize to Colorado listeners if Andy fucked that up. Please don't boycott, don't cancel your subscriptions. So this tradition continued in 2024 when one of the coins was pulled from a red kettle at a King Soopers grocery store on December 23rd. Anyone ever been to a King Soopers? I have not.
Oh yeah, that was my grocery store in Lakewood, and I lived in Lakewood, Colorado.
I've never even heard of it.
It's the big chain. Yeah, I think it's only Colorado.
Is he worthy of the throne?
Look, no one really deserves that kind of power, but thankfully it's mostly like, it's ceremonial position now. Like Colorado's a constitutional monarchy, so there's
So when you go in, like the manager's the prime minister of the King Scoopers, and he
the person that's actually running the store has been elected. It's not like a blood lineage thing. King Soopers is just a figurehead.
Can you watch the Scoopers House of Parliament where they like argue over Scoopers law?
No, but King Soopers did have. Never mind. I'm not gonna.
I actually pledged loyalty to King Piggly Wiggly back in. So this is a conflict.
So we're actually enemies by nationality at this point, you and me.
Kind of. Yeah. We're on opposite sides of the aisle, but crossing the divide, bridging the gap in 2025. That's what it's all about.
I'm still a traditionalist, so I have fealty to Pope Kroger's the first. So
this is a quote from Pastor Joshua Lyle, administrator of the Salvation Army in Fort Collins. We rely on the generosity of our local donors to attend to local needs, both spiritual and physical. So it's a joy to know that the consistency of this gift has not waned for more than 2 decades. It comes from someone who is committed to serving their community via our hands. We appreciate that. End quote, Hulk Hogan.
Wait, what?
I don't know why he said it that way, but
yeah, I've seen the video. That's exactly how he does it.
Yeah, he delivers it like a wrestling promo. It's nuts.
Fantastic handlebar mustache on that guy too.
Yeah.
He ducks his head a couple times and it's pretty obvious he's snorting some coke.
Yeah. Then he breaks a chair over the back of a kid who didn't get Christmas presents. That part was weird. Like, I get that that's technically the enemy, but, taking it a little too literal. Poverty.
He also shouted out his freaks and peaks for some reason.
He was actually cutting a promo on Goodwill.
Yeah,
exactly.
To promote their Hell in a Cell match.
Also, just to cement this as the feel-good story of January 2025, in case people are unaware why these coins are so rare in the United States, it's because we put sanctions on South Africa over apartheid back in the 80s. These are actually like one of the most common coins among gold investors, or at least they were in the 80s and 90s. And then the United States decided apartheid is bad.
Wait, the U.S. can put sanctions on an apartheid country?
I mean, historically, we used to be able to, but
okay.
I don't think we're able to anymore. It seems like we're not able to anymore.
It's only because of the band The Specials and their song Free Nelson Mandela is what happened. I mean, we have a ska movement in this country in this day and age. It's just, it lacks leadership. It's sort of been co-opted and it doesn't really have the political power that it had in the 80s.
What you're saying is the ska movement needs to pick it up.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Mustard Plug, where are you?
Remember that charity song called I Ain't Gonna Play Sun City? Anyone remember that? I'm like old enough to remember when it came out, but it was right around the time of We Are the World and Do They Know It's Christmas and all that, when celebrities were like, oh shit, like we can just get 26 of us on one song and that's going to end all the world's problems. And there was this resort.
I mean, it worked.
It did. It cured.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, hunger for sure. There was this resort in South Africa during apartheid called Sun City. And it was like a big tour destination for bands, and a bunch of them boycotted Sun City because of apartheid, except Queen, who was like, I am going to play Sun City, and it's not going to be in the movie about us years and years later.
Didn't Paul Simon do that too? Didn't he play it? Didn't Linda Ronstadt? I feel like a lot of like people that were otherwise super respectable made the really bad decision at that time.
Radiohead wasn't a band at the time. They're like, no, we have to get in on this.
Radiohead's going to invent, Tom York is going to invent a time machine just so he can go back in time and play Sun City.
Probably. So yeah, that's why these coins are so rare. Otherwise, they were like, again, one of the most common coins for people investing in gold.
It's just funny to me that to make a precious metal, a precious mineral that is already blood-stained beyond belief historically, to make it more valuable, you have to put an extra little bit of curse on it. Like it has to be responsible for just a little more evil than your average gold.
It's like if they had Chuck E. Cheese tokens that had like Hitler on them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy, what you said just now, this isn't a perfectly apt comparison, but it does remind me of how, as we speak last night, the Penn State Nittany Lions lost the Orange Bowl to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Hell yeah.
And it struck me at one point, how shitty of an institution do you have to be on the field with Notre Dame, but you're still the school that everyone associates with sex crimes against kids?
Yeah.
Like Notre Dame is essentially a wing of the Catholic Church, but we're still like, Penn State, these fucking pedophiles here. Glad they lost.
Yeah, it's like, who do you cheer for? Who's the hero here? I mean,
It's
obviously,
fuck this bowl.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like this situation too. Like it's a feel good story from a distance. And then you look at it and you're like, oh God, the Salvation Army is getting richer from this feel good story. Oh God, the money is racist.
I didn't mention these coins are worth about $2,700 each.
That'll buy you one Caitlin Clark card.
Right?
I'm assuming if you have South African coin memorabilia, you probably already own a Caitlin Clark card.
Yeah.
And for the wrong reason too. Like you keep it with your Nazi memorabilia.
Yeah. You own some Caitlin Clark cards and some controversial opinions about Angel Reese.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't even follow the Indiana Fever. I just have to say something about Angel Reese.
Good times. 2025. So yeah, since these coins began production in 1967, over 50 million ounces of gold Krugerrands have been sold. So yeah, it's just the racism that makes these so sought after by collectors now.
Krugerrand just sounds like a slur also, if I'm being honest.
It doesn't sound like real money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a Marvel MacGuffin.
It's like racism bucks, like at a like racist resort. Like you can only spend your Krugerrands here.
Well, I mean, it makes sense then to donate it to the like vile homophobic institution that is the Salvation Army.
That does make sense.
But the Salvation Army has a whole thing on their website clarifying the lies about the Salvation Army. We're not anti-homophobes. I mean, what homophobe would have that?
Good point. Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of when I went to the FBI exhibit at the Reagan Library, which that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. But they had a plaque on the wall about how for decades and decades and decades, they've been committed to upholding civil rights. It's like, oh, it's cute that you guys have a fucking sense of humor about this.
My favorite Jabuki White tweet, because he's been suspended numerous times for impersonating people, but one time he impersonated the FBI on Martin Luther King's birthday, and he said, "Happy birthday, just because we killed him doesn't mean we can't celebrate it."
Oh, man. The FBI. Rest in peace. So next story.
Cash is coming, boys.
Listen, I know this isn't exactly local news, but I don't give a shit. I am elated about it anyway.
It's spiritually local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is local to the hearts of everyone on this episode.
Hell yes.
This is the feel-good story of the year.
In late December, New York Jets quarterback and failed Jeopardy host Aaron Rodgers became the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. Here's the thing. The Packers have always been pretty good, including on offensive line. So I like to think Aaron Rodgers broke this record just because people hate him that much, that they try a little harder to sack this motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. And now he's been sacked more than any other quarterback. I love this.
Oh, this is the moment I became a Vikings fan. Like fully on board. Like, and it was because of the Bears fan in me just needed to see this happen to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And it was like, okay, it's like I'm a fan of the person that's giving me what I've always wanted to see as a fan of this other team. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is shocking to me how much more accepting of the rest of the NFC North I am now that Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers aren't in the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just like always hated them more.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I'd kind of be fine with the Lions or the Vikings winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can't be, even when the Packers, like, if they were in the Super Bowl, it was like, well, they're the NFC North team. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's who I want to see win.
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially if they're playing the fucking Steelers. But
Yeah.
like, I'm fine. I've always been fine with the Lions just because, like, whatever, it's Detroit. You know what I mean? Like, they need something.
Yeah.
But the Packers, it's always only if they're in the Super Bowl, only if they're the last NFC North team. But now, yeah, I'm fine with them. Jordan Love, sure.
Yeah, I love Jordan Love. He's great.
Yeah.
It's like how I've always been against field turf because I don't like it, but it did fuck up Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. So I'm going to give him his props right there. So like, yeah, great. Good job, field turf.
Good job. Yeah. And especially with the Vikings and the Lions, as a Bears fan, I always get this kind of like grief from people where they're like, oh, what's it like to be a fan of one of the worst franchises ever? It's like, man, there are two other teams in my division that have never been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I've seen my team go twice and win once. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Talk to the fucking Lions about what it's like being that goddamn franchise. So anyway, Aaron Rodgers. He, like we said, has been sacked more time. If you're not a sports fan, a sack just means you're the quarterback and you get tackled behind the line of scrimmage where the ball is. You get tackled for a loss.
Mm-hmm.
That is a sack. They officially started recording sacks as a record for defensive players in 1982, but they've been recorded for quarterbacks since 63.
That's so funny that it's like, we're going to count it for the quarterbacks as a negative stat before we ever acknowledge defensive players, like it being a thing that they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that is weird. You'd think they would just do both at the same time.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the NFL.
I mean, defensive players didn't get the limelight, you know?
They just got the CTE.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a video out there on Instagram that is just a opening sequence from, I think, Monday Night Football back in the 70s. And every highlight they show in that would get a player fucking arrested on the field today. It's just clotheslines and people getting face masked to the ground.
I was doing a punch up on something recently and I had to watch a couple of supercuts of the jacked up section for NFL recap from like the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys remember that? Or
yes.
Like there was a whole segment where it was just brutal slams, hits, every type of nasty ass concussion creating hit you could imagine. And then after everything, they just yell, "You got jacked up." And it's like, I think that guy's going to be eating through a tube when he's like 50. Like,
Yeah.
It's like the "You Got Moss" segment, but if it was just people taking helmets to the fucking chin every time.
Yeah. One of those clips is just Junior Seau, and you're like, oh, this feels bad.
Just Junior Seau sitting in his car.
I think he was in one of those clips that I saw.
I'm sure he was.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm sure he
Troy
was.
Polamalu going around hoping his hair keeps his brain safe, like,
which it seems like it did. Troy Polamalu
shoulders, man.
I mean, you saw that video, that clip, right, of him I think it was at USC.
Mm-hmm.
when he tackled that completely defenseless dude who called for a fair catch on the kickoff return, and just fucking like, that guy is dead. There's no way he survived that hit. Jesus. So Palomalu gave as good as he got, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. One thing about Aaron Rodgers that I do love is and so far Jordan Love has kept out of it. I like he keeps the tradition of Hall of Fame Green Bay quarterbacks being absolute pieces of shit off the field.
Yeah.
Why? What did Jordan Love do off the field?
No, I'm just waiting for the Jordan Love thing to happen eventually.
So far, he hasn't done it.
Yeah, it's probably coming. We'll find out. He misappropriated welfare funds or something like Brett Favre.
I love how whenever Brett Favre says anything, it's just a reply to him is, hey, where's that money for Mississippi, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, Brett Favre. We just talked about a 30 for 30 documentary that just came out called the New York Sack Exchange, which is about...
Is that about his dick pic?
It's about the 80s Jets. And Mark Gastineau is like really mad at Brett Favre for letting Michael Strahan break that record. And they show a very awkward clip of Gastineau confronting Brett Favre in that documentary. And Brett Favre's response on Twitter is like the most well thought out and empathetic, apologetic response you will ever see. And it's like, yeah, because he's not responding to someone who needs welfare money or someone who's mad that he texted them a dick pic. It's another rich white dude. So it's like, oh, come on, bro. I'm so sorry.
My actions have consequences.
It's the only other type of person he considers to be a person.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
He feels it in his Wrangler jeans.
I talked about it on, I think, an In Broad Daylight episode, but the only people who faced any charges over that Mississippi welfare fraud scandal were the reporter who broke the story and her editor, because they refused to reveal their sources. Justice, baby.
What a fucking great system.
So great. So great. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers, what was interesting, the article we'll link to in this is from week 17, when he broke the record for being sacked the most times with 566. But that was only like the modern day record.
Oh, yeah.
If you take pre-1963 into account, Fran Tarkenton is actually the all-time leader with 570 sacks. But Aaron Rodgers played week 18 and got sacked a whole fucking bunch. 571 is his total now. He is all alone as the leader in that category. Another fun record Aaron Rodgers holds that people never talk about. He has lost the NFC Championship game the most consecutive times for any.
He has the same amount of NFC Championship wins as Rex Grossman. That's my favorite Bear stat.
He's tied with Sexy Rexy. I love Rex Grossman.
I unironically still have. I was so excited for the Grossman era.
I feel like Grossman got kind of a bad rap.
Yeah, he did. Well,
he was exciting as fuck when he was good, though.
I also feel like Cutler got a bad rap for a while that he didn't necessarily deserve until he also revealed himself to be a scumbag.
Oh, man. I remember, I forget, it was somebody, Jay Cutler like came out in support of like Donald Trump or something like that. And somebody tweeted at me because I'm a Bears fan. And they're like, does this change your opinion? Like, literally no Chicago Bears fan has changed their opinion in any way, shape, or form by this news. We knew exactly what Jay Cutler was. Like, it's the least shocking news you could ever tell me. Like, I'm more shocked by Brian Urlacher's fucking hair growth.
Dude, for real. Yeah. I thought you were going to bring up Brian Urlacher's support for Trump, but nope, he's got hair.
Nope. I think this might be the third podcast where Adam and I have talked about that goddamn Urlacher hair supplement thing.
Biggest scandals in Chicago sports history. 1, did Michael Jordan actually get suspended for gambling? 2, Brian Urlacher's hair. 3, Sammy Sosa's skin.
Oh, when he turns into Booberry every once in a while.
It is unreal what's happening with Sammy Sosa's goddamn face. And no one can explain it. It's uncomfortable.
Greg Edwards used to have a really great bit about Sammy Sosa. I can't remember how it goes. Anyway, sorry. I love this story. This is another great story with no heroes like the last one.
The next one?
No. I mean the Aaron Rodgers one. It's like Aaron Rodgers sucks. Traumatic brain injury sucks. But
yeah,
my dream is I hope he signs with Cleveland in the offseason, then gets injured, and then Deshaun comes back, then gets injured, and they have to go back to Jameis Winston, who's just somehow like the world's most memeiest quarterback ever in existence.
That guy. Man,
Jesus.
what a character.
It's like if a weird youth pastor became an NFL quarterback. That's Jameis Winston.
The two big things I remember about him, I mean, okay, well, there's obviously when he was at Florida State.
Yeah.
Those accusations. Jesus fucking Christ, what a shithead. But wasn't the big one him stealing soda?
I think it was crabs. It was like some type of seafood from,
Yeah.
I want to say, it was like crabs or like crawfish from Publix. Is that the place?
Oh, that's Publix.
Yeah.
Which that's just a commentary on pre-NIL college sports more than anything.
Mm.
Like, I don't care if you shoplift.
Yeah. Well, I don't care if anybody shoplifts.
Yeah. All right. This next story. Remember the Slender Man murders? They happened in 2014. 2 girls in Wisconsin lured a friend into the woods, killed her, all in the name of honoring internet legend Slender Man. Except you're remembering that wrong. The girl didn't die.
Yeah.
Stabbed a whole bunch.
The story you link to, even though it's a news story, says they stabbed her to death. And I was like, oh, wow. So you just didn't do any reporting on this one, did you?
Fucking, they're using AI in Waukesha.
It says both that they stabbed her to death and that she survived, all in the span of the same story.
I mean, they did,
Fascinating.
right? Like, the intent was to kill her.
Yes.
Yeah.
They meant to kill her,
They meant to stab her to death.
but they just were bad at it.
She was just built different.
Because kids these days just don't have patience, discipline, or stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah. And anytime someone stabs someone 19 times and doesn't kill them, it's like, oh, you weren't really trying.
Yeah,
were you?
like, where were you even stabbing
Yeah.
them?
Because I can think of a few parts on the body where if you just hit it 19 times with a knife, that person's dying.
There's parts of the body, you hit it 4 times with a knife,
Yeah.
they're dying.
So this must have been, she's like stabbing arms and fucking thigh meat. It's like,
Yeah. Also, though, like, stabbing someone to death, I don't care what size they are, they don't want to die. So they're going to fight you. So you got to develop like an upper body strength, and you got to strengthen that core. And I just think these kids didn't prepare for that. Like, they just thought, oh, I'm going to stab somebody. Again, it's this participation trophy entitlement nonsense of like, oh, if I want to do something, I can just be good at it immediately. No, you have to own the skills. You have to figure out you got to find yourself a mentor, probably. I don't know. Ask Slender Man about it.
Also, I feel like with this, like the knife probably wasn't into it. It was just like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to aim for any organs. I'm going to, yeah, this is creeping me out.
It was a knife imbued with magical properties, like the singing sword.
So something people might not remember about this crime, no one went to prison for it, which at first I was like, oh, because they were 12-year-old kids. No. They tried them as adults. Of
Yikes.
course. But they were both found mentally incompetent.
I mean, it's Wisconsin and they're 12. They're smoking cigarettes and driving by now. So,
And they're white girls.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. What Andy just said is no joke. In Wisconsin, you can drink in bars if your parents are with you and you're a child. I think 12 is...
They literally had footage of Kyle Rittenhouse doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ugh.
nuts. It is so crazy.
Speaking of people I'd like the Slender Man to visit.
So they were both sentenced to inpatient psychiatric treatment, basically. And I mean, that's fine. They were 12. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's more than fine. And now they have both been released. One of the girls, Anissa Weir, was released in 2021 at the age of 19.
She's been walking the streets for 3 years.
Yeah, I bet so many other women have been stabbed to death since then. Fucking liberal crime policies putting killers back on the streets.
Yeah, in liberal Wisconsin.
Yeah, the Texas of the Midwest.
Fucking really is.
It is. The Department of Corrections monitors her internet use, and she's mandated to continue psychiatric treatment. Meanwhile, the other perpetrator, Morgan Geyser, now 22, was granted release next week, has not been released yet. This was the 4th time Morgan has asked to be released. Worth noting, Morgan now identifies as a man.
Oh.
This article does not provide a new name. Could just still be Morgan, I reckon. But it also could just be that the person writing this article doesn't give a shit because at every point, Morgan is still referred to as her and she, which I'm sure are not Morgan's chosen pronouns now.
I'm pretty sure the person who wrote this, where they couldn't identify the body as dead or alive, is not going in depth enough to find out.
Now I'm like, is this the AI fucking up again, or is this intended journalistic bigotry?
No, because even Morgan's lawyer uses she and her when talking about Morgan. So I think it's just Wisconsin. It's probably illegal to use.
If they give Morgan the preferred pronouns, they're going to jail.
Yeah, that's what's going to get Morgan sent to prison.
Also, Morgan is like names shouldn't have gender, period. That's silly. But like, even by traditionally accepted social standards, Morgan is an androgynous name, a either gender name, any gender name. So like, why would you switch it? But also, you are a true crime celebrity. Change your fucking name.
Yeah.
If I ever get convicted of a crime, I'm just changing my name to Wilt Chamberlain. Hell yeah. When people Google me, they'll be like, oh, that's the dude that fucks, doesn't kill people. All right.
I'm changing my name to FBI official.
So apparently at one point, Morgan told doctors that they were faking their psychiatric condition to avoid being released to the custody of their abusive father. That's grim. And since then, they've been taken off antipsychotic drugs, and diagnosis has been changed to post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression from childhood abuse. So it seems like they're probably not lying about any of that.
Yeah, because I haven't seen the doc in a while, but they were diagnosed like it was some form of schizophrenia, right? Or schizoaffective disorder or something.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, so and a misdiagnosis like that will fuck you up no matter who you are or what you've been through.
All the doctors seem to agree that like she's not crazy anymore in ways that could be a threat to anyone else, like that she seems to be okay to be released under supervision. So just, again, the girl's not dead. Like, this isn't a murder.
No one died.
Case.
This isn't a murderer. And if we're talking about PTSD from childhood abuse at 12.
And even the girl who got stabbed has a pretty healthy outlook on this. I read an interview with her, and she straight up was like, I know this sounds weird, but I'm actually kind of glad it happened, because most people don't like super appreciate life or have a plan for their life at my age. She was like, I fucking do.
Yeah.
She didn't say fucking, I'm paraphrasing.
To sack Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The Slender Man told me to sack Aaron Rodgers.
She's going to stab him 571 times.
I mean, yeah, that's all fair, but also, sorry, I just caught up with the 571 times. The most a quarterback's ever been stabbed. Maybe. I forgot what I was going to say. Just that, like, that age, I'm sure she appreciates life more now, but also making friends has got to be difficult, right?
Oh, yeah.
I have trouble trusting people, and all my friends ever did was like talk shit behind my back and stuff like that. I've never been stabbed by a friend 19 times. So
still time, bud.
I can't even imagine the issues that'll give you. There's still time. What are you doing later, Adam?
Some kid in 4th grade stabbed me like on the thigh with like a ballpoint pen. So, I think I'm pretty much the same boat as her.
It's the same.
I've gone with a healthy appreciation of life ever since. So, I can 100%. We're the exact same.
Exact same. Yeah.
For more on this story, let's cut to childhood stabbing expert Logan Trent.
Yeah.
Logan, you got knifed as a kid. Talk about this.
Yeah, it was a bic, which is the weapon that you most commonly see in pen stabbings. Yeah. Left a nice little mark on there, like a mini tattoo gone wrong.
Did either of you ever do or have done to you that thing where you take a ballpoint pen and like run it back and forth across the top of the desk a bunch to build up a lot of heat from friction and then just touch someone's arm with it?
Nah.
No, I don't know that trick.
Nah, I didn't do that. I know what you're talking about, but I avoided that because I would just punch someone in the face if they did that to me.
Andy, you live with your partner. Try it tonight. Just
I learned from the pen incident.
I'll make it a surprise too.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why I only support pens being on chains, like at banks. Yeah.
Because then you can choke someone.
What we need is more cops at the schools to take the pens away from the kids.
Hey, speaking of cops,
Uh-oh.
does the name Edgar Madison Welch mean anything to any?
Welch is, he's Brian Head Welch's brother, right?
Heir to the Welch's
Korn?
great fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the name of the guy who showed up at Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington, D.C. in 2016.
Why does that pizza place sound so familiar?
And why that year really sticks out to me, too.
He showed up with an AR-15 and demanded to see the child sex torture dungeon in the basement, at which point he was shown that there is, in fact, no basement in that place.
Well, if you believe the liberal media.
That's what they want you to think.
He did fire off his AR-15 once before that all happened. He was there on account of Pizzagate, the absolutely true science that claims Democrats and only Democrats sexually abuse children so as to absorb their youthful powers.
But only at pizza places.
Only at pizza places.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't do that shit at fucking Outback Steakhouse. They don't fucking put up with that.
Come on, there's grainy surveillance footage. So this happened. Okay. He pleaded guilty to assault with a dangerous weapon and interstate transport of a firearm. And there are certainly some updates when it comes to this guy. Last week, a Kannapolis, North Carolina cop recognized Welch as someone who he'd arrested before and who he knew had an outstanding warrant. So the cop pulled him over.
I just want to point out, Morgan Geyser committed their crime in 2014 as a child and was held in some form of incarceration detention for 10 years, just getting out now. This person did their crime in 2016 as an adult with a firearm and is just out there, just never wasn't detained, wasn't incarcerated.
There is a disparity in these crimes here.
I guess he didn't actually hurt anyone. Yeah.
Shooting your gun into the floor is a far cry from stabbing a classmate 19 times in the woods.
Yeah, but I just think that as an adult showing up to a place like this heavily armed because of right-wing news shit is like, that to me speaks of a deeper sickness.
Well, I could see it having been prosecuted as terrorism.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's only if you kill people that are actual villains.
As someone who is familiar with the accusations of terrorism,
Well, I mean, not for nothing, though. Luigi Mangione was charged with terrorism.
That's what
he's
I'm saying.
Italian. It's like
Okay,
We're just doing
That's
Sacco and
brown enough.
Vanzetti again. That's all.
Like, you know, Italians play Arabs like me in movies and shit. Like, it's like kind of, you know.
And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah. I feel like him getting the terrorism charge was just like a little warning from like the WASPs. Like, hey,
Oh,
100%.
you're like,
Yeah.
you have a prohibitionary thing on whiteness. We've just been trying this out for the past century. Don't make us go back to like how it was in 1800s.
We're bringing back Alien Sedition Act shit.
Yeah.
So during this traffic stop, one thing leads to another, as often happens with traffic stops. And one of the cops on the scene opened the passenger door to arrest this guy. And that's when Welch pulled a gun. And that is when the police shot and killed him.
He still had guns?
I'm glad he still had guns.
Of course he still had guns. And I'm sure they were legally purchased. Maybe, I don't know. He might have had to, after that Pizzagate shit, I wonder.
Adam, this is another story where, you know, I don't really care because fuck both of these entities.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not a fan of police shootings by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely not a fan of the police, but
AstroTurf Aaron Rodgers Achilles right back in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Racist coin in the Salvation Army bucket. Like, they're both bad guys.
Why is there never a story where it's like the dude saw that there was no basement and then was like, oh, wow, I've been really wrong about a lot of things and turned his life around? Like, yeah.
If I recall correctly, there was some degree of that with this incident. I think there was a little bit of he got shown there was no basement and was like, huh. And then police probably slide tackled him and punched him in the jaw or something.
Maybe he was turning it around so much so that he was actually going to start focusing on like the actual predators.
This was him doing ACAB stuff.
Yeah. Maybe that's what happened is he found that the cops, because look, let's face it, the cops all across this country are engaged in arms and human trafficking.
What?
Maybe he was trying to bust up a cop child trafficking ring and they got onto him and they shot him. I think this is 100% what happened.
I think Andy's nailed it.
Yeah, my crazy conspiracy theory is actually probably closer to the truth than Pizzagate, at least.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of cops, boy, do we got great news out of Ohio.
God, nothing but good news ever comes out of Ohio.
Right? Yeah. Governor Mike DeWine signed a bill into law last week that includes a provision that finally allows Ohio law enforcement agencies to charge up to $75 per hour of video requested under the state's public record laws. And by video, they mean body cam footage. But
it is about time.
On the bright side, before everyone gets up in arms about this, you want to be fair and transparent and all. So there is a cap on the amount the police can request in response to your request for body cam footage, which is $750. So it's fine. It's a nuisance charge. Skip your coffees for a day, Gen Zers.
Yeah. If you want to complain about the police department abusing you, then you need to just maybe not have avocado toast for one afternoon.
If you have the money to pay for OnlyFans cams, you have enough for Only Cops cams, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Do you want an iPhone or proof of the police suppressing your civil rights? You can't have both.
I want cops to start advertising top 1% in Only Cops fans requests. Yeah.
For the price of one tattoo.
So that money is meant to recoup the costs of redacting footage that is requested. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it goes into editing the footage further.
Right.
Great. Terrific. Love it. We're going to charge you for covering this up.
That is literally what they're charging for. And the claim here is that bad actors are abusing the request process.
What, so like Dean Cain?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Jared Leto? Is that what we're dealing with?
Yeah. Russell Crowe? Well, he's not bad, but he's overrated.
And what they're arguing is that people are trying to find videos that just make good online content so they can get clicks. And it's like, that's probably not the case.
I like how the solution is maybe don't do bad things on cams so people don't want to make online content of it. No, that's not
not it.
That's
definitely not it.
Can't be our fault.
No.
This is a quote from a criminal attorney named Joshua Evans speaking to a local Ohio outlet, Cleveland, I think. It's like putting mud in the clear water of transparency. A lot of people have a lot of distrust in police officers already, and this could be looked at as another roadblock for poor people not to be able to get what they need to make a claim. It's a public records request. I think public records should be free. I think there's a better way of parsing those people out. It kind of sends a message you can only get justice if you got money, and that's never a good message you want to send, end quote. Oh, but that is the justice system.
And then he started flexing too, like a pro wrestler, just like that preacher guy.
He's cutting a promo on the Republican governor.
He specifically called out Big Boss Man for some reason.
Yeah, this is, first of all, it kind of sends that message, bro. Every element of the justice system sends that message. And if there's ever anybody needs more proof that the cops are at best an organized crime syndicate and at worst an occupying death squad, I don't know what to say to them because...
Yeah, this is wild.
Imagine having to pay $75 for an hour of footage of a cop beating your ass at a traffic stop so that you could prove that you got your ass beat. It's so undignified and dehumanizing.
Yeah. this should be a bigger scandal than it is. I don't know
it's
what's going on in the world that we can't.
we just passed a thing here in Minneapolis. It's a mandatory reform thing that's ending not qualified immunity, but some other kind of assumed protection that the police have from reform. But this is the problem, is that this is what we do with reform, is that like body cams was like the least ask. You know what I mean? It was like it was the compromise.
We told them you could turn it off whenever you want, too.
That's the thing. They could still turn it off. And it's just like the stupidity of these cruel fucking monsters. It's just like what's happening in Israel, where it's like, instead of telling their soldiers to stop committing atrocities and war crimes, they're saying, stop posting it on social media. That's it. That's it. But fascism is so fucking dumb.
What?
This is the opposite of the Chicago thing with the getting rid of cash bail, where they're like, oh yeah, no, this works out great. We love this. This is a great reform. This is the, no, we want more money. Give us more money. We're going to bleed you for everything, and we're still going to do shitty shit.
Oh yeah, we're losing the cash bail. Well, we got to make that cash up somehow.
I'll tell you how they make it for it in Chicago. I need to follow up on this and see if anything ever came of it. But we did a local news roundup episode a couple years ago, and there was this investigation by the Chicago Sun-Times where they looked into parking enforcement in Chicago. And what they found is that not only were people in poor areas ticketed way more, had their cars impounded way more, but what would happen is their cars would get impounded. The city would eventually sell the car and then not apply any of the money to what that person owed for paying the impound fees. So the city was just like collecting cars from poor people and reselling them just in mass. And I don't know that anything ever fucking came of it. People probably just read that article and were like, huh, that sucks for poor people.
You could do a whole episode on the mismanagement of parking stuff in Chicago, because like just the fucking meter situation is insane also.
Yeah, the Chicago PD, they are something else.
They have a black ops site, so at least they're doing something right by their terms. So yeah,
a black ops site that was featured on The Good Wife before it was ever news.
Speaking of Zionist psychopaths, Juliana Margulies, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, she's a small part of the legacy of that show.
Yes. Yeah.
Still one of the greatest fucking, possibly the last great network drama, The Good Wife.
I think you're forgetting a show called Deal or No Deal Island with Joe Manganiello.
It's a good point. I did forget that. Hey, speaking of fuck faces, I'm not going to lie. Alec Baldwin strikes me as an absolutely vile human being. I don't give a fuck who he votes for.
Yeah.
He's the least shittiest Baldwin, which is saying something about that fucking family.
Yeah, it sure is. And with that out of the way, I do think I'm on Alec Baldwin's side here. People might recall he was a producer on a film called Rust. And on the set of that film, a crew member, cinematographer Helena Hutchins, was accidentally shot and killed. Tragic accident, to be sure. And I guess it's fine that the person in charge of guns on the set was charged, I guess. I mean, if you're negligent at your job and people get killed over it, I guess there's fines there. I don't know.
And that person wasn't just negligent. She was like wildly irresponsible.
Yeah. So it's reasonable that she was charged with crimes. But then they also charged Alec Baldwin with involuntary manslaughter. And I don't know. I feel like if this was produced by like Jimmy Production or like
Jimmy Production,
John Movies, fucking Tim Cinema, I don't think the producer would have been charged.
Look, Tim Cinema is a responsible producer and never would have put anyone at risk this way.
Exactly.
I've known Tim Cinema for 25 years, and let me tell you something about him. He cares.
I feel like Alec Baldwin got charged because he was Alec Baldwin, and it made for pretty cool news for prosecutors in New Mexico. Not that I would imply that prosecutors ever, press charges or power on with a case just in the name of publicity or anything like that.
I mean, this is, again, it's another one where it's like, I don't like prosecutors or sheriff's departments, but I also don't like Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I don't like Alec Baldwin either, but that's not the point. It's like, for me, it's the same thing as when the guy who was accused of killing Tupac was like, hey, I have cancer. Can you let me out so I don't have to eat all this fucking processed food all the time? Like, on the one hand, yeah, it sucks that that guy killed Tupac, but also he's speaking to a bigger problem.
I don't think it's similar at all, because that's a situation where the state is punishing somebody who's like dying. You know what I mean? Like, this is a situation where the problem with safety regulations in the industry is huge. And like, considering how fast and loose the culture is about it, it's a miracle more people don't die on film sets. Like, it's fucked up, the shit that passes. And someone at some point, I think, does need to be made an example of. I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but like, Alec Baldwin's a producer on that film. He is assuming responsibility for the safety of his crew. If he is not doing that, that is a problem. And I'm not saying that like he should be singled out, but I think someone is going to need to be singled out for that culture to change. And I lived in Santa Fe for a while, and that town has a very complicated relationship with the industry and with celebrities. There's a lot of fucking celebrities there. And this story kind of strikes me as one of those, like, it's like Fatty Arbuckle in San Francisco, when San Francisco said, we're tired of these celebrities treating our town like it's their party destination, and they made an example of him.
Yeah, that's exactly what, like, we're talking about the same thing. I don't think making an example of people is a prosecutor's job. It's also like giving prosecutors a big benefit of the doubt that I don't think they deserve, because what strikes a nerve with me here is this reminds me of things like the Staircase, the Michael Peterson case, where that guy didn't kill his fucking wife. He went to prison because he was gay. Like, You watch that documentary, that prosecutor had it in her head, oh, he was gay, his wife found out, he killed her over it. Meanwhile, his wife knew for fucking ever. And that prosecutor carried on with that shit. Or the JonBenet Ramsey case. The prosecutor in that case carried on with a theory that was disproven by medical examiners like weeks into the investigation. And he did it because he was writing a fucking book and he just couldn't be wrong. That guy should go to fucking prison. Like, there should be ramifications for treating your job that way if people's lives are on the line. And I don't care if they wanted to make an example. That's not your job. Fucking file charges on what the crime is.
Okay, but literally what you just said is what I'm saying. There should be ramifications when people's lives are on the line. And Alec Baldwin was making a movie where firearms were involved and people's lives were on the line. And he fucking was negligent.
If I recall correctly, didn't he settle with the woman who died with her husband? And he gave like a, not blessing, but he said it's okay if this movie continues and gets released. Like, you know, this was her work, I'd like it to go out.
Yeah, but the film getting released is not the same as Alec Baldwin not being held accountable.
Yeah. So, if I recall also, like, these charges have been like dropped and then refiled like numerous times. So at this point, it just seems like the prosecutors are bad at their jobs in terms of like actually filing things correctly, which...
Well, they also withheld evidence that would have probably exonerated Alec Baldwin.
So that's what I mean. Like, this is like this is like, I get if there was a situation where he just was like washing his hands completely and he didn't even try to make like any amends with her husband or anything like that. But this is like a case where it's just even the prosecutors keep fucking up their charges and keep trying to like do shady shit on top of it. There's like no hero in this. Like...
No, again, yeah, there's no hero. And I don't disagree with the fact that the prosecutors are in the wrong. Yeah. I think Alec Baldwin, like, bringing a suit against them is kind of like, dude, you got off, just let it go. You know what I mean? Like,
sucks is only people like Alec Baldwin have the means to do this.
That's true. That is true.
And that, I've mentioned it 1,000 times. Once again, the Staircase, there's a moment in that documentary where Michael Peterson's talking to his lawyer about this test they're going to run to help prove his innocence. And he's like, how much is it going to cost? And the lawyer's like, about $25,000.
Skip the avocado toast, Michael Peterson.
Well, no, Michael Peterson's like, oh, that's fine. And then just like looks down, and then he looks up and goes, wait, what do poor people do in a situation like this? That's the $1 million question, Michael Peterson.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks about this to me. Like, regular people should be able to come out the other end of bullshit charges and be like, all right, now let's talk about you filing these charges against me that you knew were not valid.
I mean, I agree, but I also think that it's not as cut and dry as fuck these prosecutors, because, I mean, yeah, fuck the prosecutor, but regular people work below the line jobs in this industry, and they're constantly put in jeopardy. Constantly. I've definitely been put in jeopardy. And because people are like, this is our schedule, we don't want to lose money, and it's just for a product. What's it for? A movie, a TV show. People are risking their lives for this shit all the time. And it's constantly unsafe environments, and it needs to fucking change.
This is two abuses of powers. Like, it's abuse of power as a producer. Like, you have to create a safe environment. Like, even if it's not related to like weaponry and stuff, like there's like sexual abuse, there's a bunch of different types of racial discrimination. Like, you have to create a safe
people die
environment
because they get hit by trains trying to get a shot.
Yeah. I mean, the person didn't die, but that Resident Evil, the woman lost her arm because of unsafe stunt work, and that's a huge problem too. But also, prosecutors getting to consistently pull out bullshit like this, and this isn't a huge profile thing. There's tons of times where it's just, oh, this guy robbed a liquor store and maybe he didn't, and they just keep refiling shit and ruining their lives. So it's like, this is abuse of power on two different levels, one in the judicial side and one from a financial producer side. They're both assholes.
Yeah, they're all assholes.
And I guess my last little pushback on it would be, yeah, stuff like what you're talking about needs to change, and people need to be safer about things. Mm-hmm. But are we sure Alec Baldwin wasn't doing all that? Because they did go forward with this case and it was thrown out. And they did withhold evidence. If you had evidence that Alec Baldwin actually was not negligent and you withheld that and went forward with the case anyway, that's a different thing. That's not, oh, well, we're going to hold Alec Baldwin responsible for the entire industry.
But from what I understand, the issue was that this person had a history, this weapons handler had a history of being unsafe and unprofessional, and there were complaints. And Alec Baldwin, as a producer, ultimately he did fail in protecting people from that. Whether or not he can be held legally responsible, or whether or not he's found to be criminally negligent, there's no doubt in my mind that there was negligence on his part that led to this.
So I think that there's like degrees of separation. Like, obviously the weapons person, like, they're directly responsible. Yeah. And that's why I don't have any issues with them prosecuting or continuing their case, which I believe they're in the middle of, right? They haven't like convicted her, have they?
I think she got convicted.
Yeah. So I'm fine with that from a legal standpoint. With Alec, it's same thing. If there was actual legal stuff that they could bring forward on, but it seems like they keep fucking up their charges. Yeah. So at this point, the only ramifications you can get are through civil, which it seems like he's already done in terms of reaching a settlement with the husband. So there has to be ramifications. I feel like they've gotten him to the best that like accurately he can get to, which is financially. I don't know if there's like actual legal stuff, because again, their case has been so shittily put together. I don't know what the actual legal stuff that he did was, because I'm confused by the entirety of it.
And like, I'm not smart. I'll admit I'm not smart enough with this shit to know what I'm fucking talking about when it comes to the legality of things. Like, I'm not a law expert by any stretch. I know that's coming as a shock to you. I have like passed myself off as a legal expert for years. Just part of the grift, baby. I don't know what I'm talking about. So like, maybe fuck me. I don't know what I'm talking. But it needs to change.
Absolutely.
I mean, my question with her having this history of being unsafe, even then we're kind of implying that Alec Baldwin was the one who sought her out and hired her. And I bet that's not the case.
No, but like, as a producer, especially as a high profile producer, you got to know like your name is going to be with anybody that's hired.
Okay, but then do you charge the person who hired her also?
Again, all of this is stuff that would be way clearer if the fucking prosecutors did their goddamn jobs correctly.
Yeah. If you walk into a restaurant and there's a big puddle of water and there's no caution wet floor sign out and you slip on it and you hurt your spine in a way where you're paralyzed for the rest of your life, you sue that business owner in addition to the person working that didn't put that thing out there because they were responsible for training people properly. There is a culpability. And like, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying like there is precedent for that.
But suing and criminal charges are two different things. Alec Baldwin did come up off money for this.
Yeah, and again, I don't know the law.
There's like degrees of separation with it. Like,
Yeah.
the person directly responsible, I'm absolutely fine with the criminal charges, and it seems very clear. Oh, they did this. This was what led to this. Like, okay, we have a criminal charge that we can put forward because here is the clear facts of this. With the Alec Baldwin stuff, it's just, again, these prosecutors are so bad at the things, it's kind of hard to understand exactly his culpability because they're not doing their jobs correctly because they fucking suck at it.
Yeah, and they're not. Yeah, I mean, withholding evidence is
like, so this could have been easily solved if prosecutors were doing their jobs the way they're supposed to rather than not. Also, it wouldn't have been an issue if Alec Baldwin had done his job as a producer and maybe not hired a person who had a bunch of fucking complaints against them. It's just negligence on both sides, abuses of power on both sides. There's no hero in this. It's no good guy here.
All right, but let's talk about better New Mexico legal news. The state Supreme Court there ruled against the legality of several local measures meant to restrict access to abortion pills. Unanimous opinion. Court said the ordinances violate the legislature's authority to regulate reproductive care. Abortion is still legal in New Mexico, and as a result, it has become a go-to destination for women seeking abortions from surrounding states like Texas.
Arizona's right there too. Do they have, I feel like
they probably have.
I mean, they're one of those states that's like got some real liberal pockets, but it's mostly
I think Oklahoma too has got like super duper restricted abortion. They're not super far from New Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just jump right across the panhandle.
I don't know geography. Who knows?
Actually, I don't think you can jump across the panhandle. I think that puts you in a full other different part of the country. But
these measures were specifically meant to stop people from sending or receiving abortion pills. Apparently, by mail is the most common means of abortion these days. You just order pills in the mail, which that's convenient. And these local laws, not only were they trying to restrict that, but it was one of those things where if you found out someone either may have or received abortion pills, you could tell the state and then charge that person under something called the Comstock Act. And basically they would face civil penalties of up to $100,000 per incident.
Yeah, and that's been happening a lot in this country.
Yeah.
There's a case in Texas that's it's the woman went out of state to get an abortion and then got snitched on by the father. And that's like currently just a huge headache that people are dealing with right now.
God, fuck this fucking country, man.
Yeah. This is good on New Mexico.
Yeah. Good work, New Mexico Supreme Court.
Yeah, there's not really any other way to put it. Fucking good for them.
Yeah. Hey, there's a good guy in this story.
Yeah.
Just don't look at a lot of the other decisions they've made.
Yeah. I bet their thoughts on how the police can deal with homeless people is pretty fucking interesting. Given my understanding of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Thing. I love New Mexico. the police are such a fucking.
The Albuquerque PD is a murder gang. Like straight up.
Yeah, we did an episode about them in like 2013 or some shit. It was a long time ago.
I feel like you could just put any city in front of PD as a murder gang and kind of.
Yeah.
But I know Albuquerque's pretty bad.
They had a thing where they got all this budget money to hire new cops and no one wanted to be a cop. So they were like, well, we should just loosen our hiring restrictions. And they put this rule in place where if you left your last cop job in good standing, they didn't do a background check if you applied to work at the Albuquerque PD. And what they ended up getting were all these people who, they left their last cop job in good standing because the department they worked for was like, fucking get this dude off our hands. Holy shit.
Is good standing only abusing your girlfriend, but not wives? Is that like good standing for police?
Good standing is turning off your body cam before you shoot somebody.
Yeah.
Good standing is turning off your body cam before you pissed. Just so you don't, no one wants to see your dick. Yeah, no.
They at one point killed more people per capita than the Chicago PD and the NYPD, which that's impressive.
Those are big numbers.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. For New Mexico, especially, I mean, it's like, they're never going to touch the LAPD. Just not going to happen. But LAPD, we're talking, it's California. That's the big show. That's the majors. New Mexico is the farm team. So for them to be putting out NYPD numbers, that's crazy.
I will say Chicago PD, I feel, is like, I'm doing my MVP debate here. I'm the Stephen A. of police brutality. Listen, the Chicago Police Department, their numbers are lower usually because they're smarter than those other ones. They hide that better. You can't tell me that they have numbers that are not on par with New York if you include those hidden ones.
That's probably true.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. There's a reason they had a black ops site. That's how they hide that stuff.
But the LAPD's got to have one too, right?
We just don't know about it because it wasn't on The Good Wife.
See, LAPD, I think, just doesn't care. CPD, I feel like, is good at hiding stuff. And New York PD, I think, is just too dumb.
Yeah.
Like that's how I would organize. That's how I would classify the three. So, yeah.
If they're the Three Stooges, which one is Curly? Who's the Okay.
So Curly has to be NY. Mo is definitely LAPD, and then Larry is CPD.
You know what? Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's our episode.
Oh, shit.
Hey, Andy, Logan.
What?
Thank you both for doing the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, everybody.
What do we have to plug before we get out of here? Patreon.com/unpops, youdontpod.supercast.com. Go there and sign up for bonus episodes. That's all I got. And, keep LA in your thoughts, everybody. Logan, what do you got to plug?
At the Logan Trent on Blue Sky. And as Adam mentioned, we're going to be bringing back WNBA when we get closer to draft season. So there's that. Also would like to plug the concept of sacking Aaron Rodgers whenever possible. You don't need to be on a football field to do that. You can live your dream at the airport or again, any restaurant he might be going to. Just get him right in the ribs. Bring him down.
I don't even think it necessarily needs to be Aaron Rodgers. It can just be a guy that looks like him or is talking like him or wearing
Jordan
a Green
Rodgers
Bay Packers
is out
uniform.
You can take him down too. He was shitty on the fucking Bachelor.
Someone wearing a Packers jersey, unless you're in LA, that's probably a gang member.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, don't be doing that.
Don't do it in LA. Packers gear means something else in LA.
Would like to plug the concept of not doing genocide. Just
what?
Somehow in the new year we're still doing concept. That. So new year, same old genocides.
Were we supposed to not be doing that on this?
That was my resolution.
Well, I hate to be a legal wonk here for a second, as we've established. I'm an expert on these things.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't supposed to be doing it when the ICC said that it was wrong. But then our House of Representatives just passed sanctions against the ICC. So it's the classic, you're doing genocide, nuh-uh defense. So now it's on nuh-uh. So it's back to being okay again. And we can talk about the fact that we're doing it. We just can't say that it's bad, actually.
Sure. Yeah. And hey, that makes perfect sense. Andy, what do you want to plug?
Other than your law firm.
My law firm, Andy, and Andy. Don't do genocide. Don't be Zionist scum. Don't be a fascist. This is just life lessons, I guess. I don't really know what I'm plugging. I don't have anything. Look Good for the Boys we're supposed to have our 2024 wrap-up episode coming out soon. It's been delayed, but that's coming, I guess. And then anything else, I don't know. I'm trying to figure my life out,
Aren't we all, man?
Yeah.
We all. And hey, I think that's it. Let's get the fuck out of here. Andy, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Stay safe, LA.
Logan, say goodbye.
Bye. Also, keep safe wherever you are, especially in LA right now.
And goodbye, everybody. We love you.
Bring a blood object to Bristol Street. Bring a blood object.